I am Terri Paddock. I am not connected with the King's Head or this production, except that I love chairing post-show Q&As, and I am very privileged to be asked by the King's Head to do it fairly frequently, and it's a really great pleasure of mine, especially with new work that makes me cry, even when I've seen it multiple times, and laugh and smile and enjoy it all the way through, and with such a wonderful company. Save your applause to the end, and please let me introduce you to the three cast members: Dan Nicholson, Nemida.
Yes.
I checked it like 3 times. Nemida May, Barry McStay, who's also the writer, and as I said earlier, our wonderful director, Tom Ratcliffe. Now you can clap. So, guys on the stage with me, thank you, particularly after such a heart-wrenching performance, to come out and talk to us about it as well. You guys know the play and the production much better than we do, so if with my questions or the audience questions we are missing something really important, please will you just steer us in the right direction, and because we want to make the most of this the generosity of having you here today. So brief background to this, and Barry will correct me if I got it wrong, but this play that you've watched today, this is about 8 years in the making to get to this point.
I started writing in 2016,
Yeah.
It was just a two-hander, it was called Zeb and Eoin at that time.
2016, and it was a two-hander under a different title.
Yeah.
Then, fast forward to 2023, Tom Ratcliffe was guest artistic director at the Old King's Head Theatre and programming a great season of work called A Queer Interrogation.
Yeah.
And Tom decided, hey, he wanted breeding in that.
Phrasing.
As part of that season. That production was directed by Matthew Iliff, and Barry and Dan also appeared in it, but we had another actor playing Nemida's role. Nemida. I'm going to call you Nemida, is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay. Then we come to the new King's Head, and we thought it was a huge hit last year. Some of you may have seen it, I think we had some hands, and so they decided to bring it back here to the new venue. So, but before we get back to the changes and what was the same before, what was different, Tom now directing it, that's a big difference, Nemi joining the cast. Take us back 8 years, Barry. What was the original inspiration?
I had a couple of friends who had adopted a gay couple, and literally I was having coffee with them, and I was just asking them casually about it, and one of them literally described what is the porn scene in this play, of them being taken to separate rooms and quizzed about their sex lives and their interest in porn, and like a weird Mr. and Mr. game show, and I found it really disturbing and loaded when you're asking queer people about their sex lives and relation to children and appropriateness and all of that. It hits a bit differently. But also really quite funny. So I can visualise what that would look like on a stage as a scene, and so I kind of started with that scene, and then the rest of the play kind of grew out of that. It was much more of a satire of the whole process initially, and it was, like I said, a two-hander, and each scene was kind of sparked by a different question from the workbook, which is our set behind us. That's literally the Southwark Council workbook. Which
I live in Southwark, by the way. So, so
and we commissioned a wallpaper. It's not individual sheets, that's a wallpaper.
Are they happy with you using the workbook? You don't care.
They have got to find out on Instagram. That's the council, but yeah, so it started from that, and every iteration, the storyline grew deeper. All the council storyline was kind of in there from the beginning, but that's deepened. The role of the interrogator grew into a physical person, and then has grown into a much more integral protagonist in the whole play, and that's been very much every single draft and version since then has tried to deepen Beth's role in the whole play. And yeah, it's changed a lot, and there's a little bit of me really wants to delete the file which has the original 2016 draft and never look at it again.
Okay.
Yeah.
And have your friends been to see it in its various guises?
Actually, they don't live in London anymore. The people I interviewed for it live in London, but they have all received it. A couple of them have bought copies of the script, which is really nice. Yeah. And we've had a lot of gay parents and queer parents in. We had a Babes in Arms performance during the week.
Babes in Arms?
Babes in Arms, yeah, it was really nice.
Were there disturbances? Were the babes well behaved?
They were babies, what do you expect?
Dan, so you've been involved from a very early stage. What was it like when you first got on board, and how have you adapted with it as it's grown?
Sure. Well, I think that the first thing that we did actually was chop a lot away, wasn't it? So in the first rehearsal process, we did a lot of workshopping every day, and Barry, like a hero, was doing full days rehearsal as an actor, and then putting his writer hat on in the evening, going home, doing rewrites, shaving stuff down, reorganising stuff, and Matthew had a big hand in a lot of that as well. And we kind of all did, didn't we? All three of us. It was quite a like a workshopping rehearsal room.
Yeah. Anyone who bought the script last year will have, and then went and saw the show, will know that the script that they bought was then different from.
Is it a different script?
So this is another revised edition for this production, but like the script we had published last year was different to the final product because we were still changing during previews.
Yeah, exactly.
So there was a lot of that last year.
Yeah, and I remember even, I think between previews we lost the whole scene. Do you remember that, the Instagram scene? So it was very robust, kind of dynamic process. We were shaving stuff away first, and then obviously between that one and this one, it's sort of re-expanded because this is, I think, probably half an hour long, wasn't it, or 25 minutes?
25 minutes longer.
And Barry very sweetly got in touch, I think, with both Amira, who was the Beth before Nemi, and myself, and said, was there anything that we felt that was lacking from the last show, or anything?
A scene that you wish was in it.
Yeah, exactly, that's it. Yeah, and I think I said something about domesticity.
Yeah, domesticity and them being happy.
Yeah, them being happy, basically. Because you can imagine if you don't have the domestic scenes, it was quite sort of brutal.
Yeah, so the birthday scene is kind of that.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think, and then
Amira said she wondered if Beth and Zeb had communicated between the confrontation and Beth's death, and Zeb's death.
So the letter scene.
So the email in the park is new, thanks to her. I wrote that and actually a reply from Beth, and then sort of had them floating and showed them to Tom. And Tom was like, oh no, she needs to read that at him in the park.
And it's such a beautiful scene, isn't it, Nanny? That's when I first start really, that tips me over the edge. When you just, you start off, dear Beth, and you know.
Yeah. I mean, as an actor, it's like a great scene to do because it's so like juicy. It's really easy because of the writing. It's so easy to like get to the place that you need to get to. You know what I mean? But I always get very emotional.
But it's Nemi has a hard job. Beth has a hard job because so much of her stuff is happening off stage.
Yeah.
But that stuff is beginning to bleed onto the stage, and I think that scene is great because you see her fully pursuing her goal in the way that you've had to deal with Owen doing for the last hour and a bit. You get to see her do that as well. But
I could imagine in the next iteration we get Alana on stage as well. I have a vision of Alana.
Well, funny, I had a note when, like, about 2017, I was longlisted for the Papa Tango Award, and their feedback was one of the things they said is, "Oh, I'd love to see the partner of the social worker in it." And I kind of I continually discounted that note because I think it kind of would give the ending away. I think if you saw like the obvious coming together would be of the four, and it very much Beth's role at the beginning is to kind of wrong foot you. You feel like it's a bit of a rom-com where she's the antagonistic figure, and then it goes somewhere very unexpected. And I think if we saw Lana earlier or at all, I think that might tip the story in a different direction. So yeah.
So I'm time jumping here, Tom.
Yes.
Take us to 2023. You've got this takeover season of The Old King's Head.
Yeah.
What was it about the script that you saw at that point that made you want to program it?
So I actually saw a reading of what was still Zeb and Eoin,
But a 300.
but a three-hander at Vault at the Glitch, was it?
Yeah,
Vault at the Glitch.
Vault were doing some like hour-long sharings of things at the Glitch.
Yeah, and so I'd seen that prior. So then when I was given the keys, I actually didn't have a lot of time to program, but we did a big call out as well. But immediately, especially for the way I wanted to structure it was that I had like one long running, like almost like headline, I guess, show of new writing. And I really, for that show, I needed to get a jump on before it was even announced. So I had to go really to plays that I already knew, and I loved the reading. I had already read the script before that anyway. So yeah, I immediately, actually, You came over for lunch.
I saw Wreckage, which is Tom's play, which is coming here shortly.
Yes,
It's very
because
good.
in addition to being a director, Tom was an award-winning writer.
And actor, yeah.
And
And I said,
too many hats.
It's terrible.
Too many hands.
yeah,
Outrageous.
but I saw that the night before, The Turbine, and was too emotional because it's a very good play, and I recommend it. To talk about, so we went to his.
I've cried 6 times.
Yeah, I bet you have.
Mum did everything. Mum
Yeah.
did everything.
But we had lunch the next day, and he was like, "If I give you 2 weeks, can you get a team together to do this play?" And so I found Gabby, who's the producer, and she came on board, and then we got the funding. Like 2 weeks to say yes or no to it.
Yeah, it was. I didn't like the time frame I gave you. Sorry.
Worked out, yeah.
You
Yes.
also have a bit of a celebrity endorsement with reading. So
Yes.
tell us about that.
Yeah, Mark Gatiss is our associate producer. Mark saw a play of mine called Vespertilio, which was at the Vault Festival about 5 years ago, because he knew one of the actors in the play, and we had drinks in the bar afterwards, and he really liked it. So when it came to looking for funding for the show and looking for support to try and get it off the ground, he was one of the people we reached out to, and he has been, yeah. It's really lovely when you spend long enough, or anyone who's a creative, you'd spend ages knocking on doors, and then suddenly some people say yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, and particularly someone who's as brilliant as Mark is. So yeah, thankfully, he's liked both productions, so money well spent.
Yeah. Okay, audience, are you feeling warmed up? You've got burning questions. Show me some hands. Show me some hands. Oh, in the back, yeah.
Hi. Firstly, congratulations. Amazing show. I absolutely loved it. Question for Barry. Did you think about, in terms of writing, exploring the reasons why Beth didn't want to adopt, considering her role? And that could, of course, some really quite interesting friction.
Yeah, I think I resisted doing that for a couple of reasons. Because one of the obstacles that some pairs of male couples have is that they can't conceive in that way, and so I think having that counterbalanced by someone who was also queer who wanted to conceive but then was facing a different obstacle just gave a slightly broader perspective of that, and I think it's a thing that a lot of would-be parents would have. They kind of want to have kids of their own, and there's sort of an ineffability about a lot of the questions you have to, like when Beth asks Zeb and Eoin, why do you want to be parents? Sometimes you can't really explain it, and so I think it was useful having a character who embodied that on stage, the wanting to have a kid of your own and having to deal with that in a different way, as well as which, yeah, it's, I guess there's another half hour or 40 minutes worth of a play if we add on more of that as well. I don't know how you felt that as an actual moment then, as an actor.
I mean, I get it. I think Barry's right in that sometimes you actually just can't articulate why you want the things that you want, especially when it comes to like children, having children of your own, adopting. But I also think in terms of like the way the play goes, it's nice to have like that juxtaposition between like 2 men who actually cannot conceive and 2 women who can conceive and choose to but don't want to adopt. I think it like helps the story a lot.
In the rehearsal room, did you all talk about the nature of parenting and the different obstacles? A lot? Much? Not?
Well, I have 3 children, so I spoke about it a lot. And
Neither of us are in a rush to have any.
yeah.
Particularly not after this.
Yeah, it was a time.
It was just a lot of me being like, love them but don't have them.
And they're watching now.
So we did speak. Yeah, we spoke about it. We spoke about like, I did some research on like the IVF journey, and then we kind of had to sync it up to like their adoption journey as well.
We did the spider diagram, what your hopes and fears, the character's hopes and fears as would-be parents would be.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a parent either, but I just kept thinking in many of the scenes, like, can you imagine if all parents had to go through this? And like, and arguably, maybe some should have to do it before they take on that future. Usually, you're agreeing, Mum. That's okay. Mum, what are you going to ask your son up here? Anything? No. Yes, hand there, please.
I was going to ask this for Barry again. So I'm quite intrigued to know what the inspiration was, whether particular aspects like the cancer part wasn't something I was necessarily expecting. It's like, wow, this is not a weighty thing that's getting thrown
you want people to take away?
So the cancer storyline came, I actually have a cancer scare of my own about in 2020, but long after I'd actually written it into the play. So everyone who knows me, who then came and saw the play, how is this you processing your feelings? No, I can make stuff up sometimes. It started out very early on, because it was the nature of the process is so invasive. I thought it would be interesting to see what's a thing, to give the couple a thing that they really desperately wanted to hide, and then to make it something which, you know, Owen is so laser focused on wanting to have his perfect family, and it's something you can't conceive of that not being Zeb, him and a kid, and then Zeb being the character that he is, foregrounding Owen's wants and needs to the detriment of his own health, and then, you know, the bigger the thing is they have to hide, and the harder they're having to hide it when they actually have to look it square in the face, the more impactful it is. The second part of your question was what I want people to take away. I think, so I start out with a story. When I'm writing a thing, I start, what's the interesting story? I thought, okay, the thing that my friend told me about that porn interrogation was funny. Then you go, what's the thing they could hide? You build a story out of that, and then when I finish draft one, I go, okay, what's the question the play is asking? And try and then hone it from then on. And the question of the play is just how far you would go to have a family. And there's lots of orbiting bits around that. Would you put yourself through the adoption process? Would you put yourself through the heartbreak of IVF? Do you, as a straight people, do you want to have to go through the ordeal of parenthood? Because it's not easy. But I think there's lots of different sort of orbiting bits of how far you go to have a family. But ultimately, the ending that we've come to over several drafts and workshops, and actually the ending of the play now kind of originated in the reading that we did in 2022, which Matthew also directed, was that families can come in all different shapes and sizes, and the ending of the play has gotten queerer and queerer, and the makeup of that final family, which is a dead gay dad and a living gay dad who isn't the biological dad, and then two lesbian parents, one of whom is the biological mother, the other isn't. It's just like, it's such a rainbow of a family. But yet hopefully audiences still at the end of the play are like, yes, that is a family and they deserve this ending. And if you don't, well, great, because there's lots of straight people, as Terri Paddock said, who you might look at straight families and go, they shouldn't be a family. You go, if you don't like this family, well, you know, that's also good. That's fine. That can happen too.
The thing that I love when I look at it is that there's a speech that Beth has, which is the Draw a Winding Road speech about the winding road to parenthood. And I just think that is so true, regardless of whether it's like a heterosexual couple who conceive. Like, you know, you never know what's that perfect family. That isn't really how it goes, even post birth. So I just think that there's something really beautiful, and doesn't even necessarily, like, there's lots of like underlying like social like commentary which people will inevitably make questions in every single one of you, and you'll each have a different reaction to that. But the core of this is a story of just three queer people creating a family, and I just think there's something really just beautiful and touching, and that's why audiences connect to it for me.
Yeah.
With the cancer addition to the story, that created for me one of the most uncomfortable scenes, in a good way. But when Dan, your character, is preparing to go into hospital for the operation the next day, and the shock that you have when your partner is showing more concern for not potentially having a family than for your health the next day. I mean, that must be a very difficult thing to do.
Yeah, I think it's crunchy. The stakes are so high and the writing is so good that actually, as an actor, it's a real pleasure to do that scene. But yes, I suppose if you stop and think about the kind of crunchiness, I suppose it's a very intense scene.
And in fairness to Owen, my reading of it was actually that he was so concerned but couldn't face it.
Yeah. Oh, the stuff that's going on is he's now worried that he might die. So not getting a baby is actually any of that not coming together.
Yeah.
Opens the possibility of Zeb not being with him forever as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Something else in one of the interviews I read with you, Barry, that struck me in terms of takeaways was you described this play as very simply a domestic drama with a queer heart.
Yeah.
And that's just such a simple but beautiful way to put it. So, what I guess for any of you, and I'm going to start with Tom, I need to give Barry a bit of a break, but why do you think that, we should have more domestic dramas with queer characters?
I just think because naturally a lot of the narratives that we've seen on stages, and this isn't in any way a critique, but a lot of them revolve around either essentially a coming out story, or this is mainstream, not the King's Head have been programming interesting stuff for longer than that, but from a mainstream lens, all you really see is like coming out stories, and as we should, a lot of stories such as It's a Sin, which break through into the mainstream and tackle the AIDS pandemic. However, what we don't really see crack the mainstream yet is more stories essentially which you would typically see, typically a story about adoption. I mean, a great example is Trying, that's on Apple TV, if anyone's seen it. Naturally, that has a straight couple at the heart of it. So you don't usually see stories like that through
parenthood shows.
Parenthood shows through a queer heart. So it's really nice to further the narrative and just, I guess, have stories which go further than identity being at the core.
Yeah.
When I was first pitching this, the first early drafts to different places, I was told that the Bush had just done a show called Kith and Kin, which was about a lesbian couple fostering, and so basically they'd done queer parents.
Really?
Yeah, that was basically, they're like, oh, well, there's no point in sending this out to them because there's been a queer parenting play in London in the last 6 months, so,
Oy.
Well, we've done parenting now.
Yeah, we've done parenting.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah,
No, go
Mum,
No, just out of interest, you said about the porn scene and everything. did you research if they actually put straight couples through that sort of question?
So this is
or is it completely discriminatory? Sorry.
I know from the people who told me that story that it was standard for the agency that they went through for that to happen. And I don't think that is necessarily currently now a thing that some of the council do, but it is a thing that has been done and is done by some adoption agencies. So it felt too good a scene to not include.
Oh yeah, no, I think it's a great scene.
Hand in the back row.
Hi. For Barry, but I guess for all of you, I think the thing you were saying about the domestication point was really poignant. I really loved the dynamic between Owen and Zeb, and I just thought those scenes were just so relatable, with whatever kind of relationship you've been in. And I just wanted to know where you draw inspiration for that dynamic, because the original kind of scenario with your friends, was based on that, or was it kind of a range of things?
In terms of drawing the characters, I do. So I trained as an actor. I always sort of build the story from dialogue up a lot of the time. So I think I wrote the Zeb, you name Zeb opening scene kind of free writing wise, nearly, to find out how they talk and what their rhythm was and their interactions. And then that build, you go, okay, well, one of them seems to be more nervous, so you amp that up in the next and see what his neurotic side is, and the other one being cooler and what his version of flippant is, and they kind of emerge from that. And then, as we were working last year, and then in the redrafts before we came into the rest room this year, then obviously Dan has an influence on that, and you draw things from the characters as well. It's rare that I would go, I'm going to copy these two people I know. There'll be bits and pieces and things that people say that maybe end up in the play. But
Purely coincidental that Owen is an Irish?
No, I did. This is my fourth play. It was the first role I've written specifically thinking I could be in this. And my middle name is actually Owen, but spelled the weirder way. E-O-G-H-A-N, yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, my parents didn't call me Owen spelled O-W-E-N because they realised my initials would then be B-O.
I'm wondering where you get the idea for Zeb's parents to be nudists.
No, it just seemed like a funny thing. They kind of emerged again through writing about his parents. Then that was a later addition of something to when they have that scene together. That's at a point at which you're getting to see a little bit more of Beth as well. So, I mean, she nearly gets to see a bit more of Zeb than she bargains for. But it feels like it's a real opening up and a widening of their interactions and their reactions.
Nemi, how did you feel coming into this production? It is a new production, totally new, was a new director, so that's quite fresh. But nevertheless, you've got two actors who have done this in many iterations before and have an existing rapport. Was that exciting to you or really daunting?
Remounting a show is interesting. I've remounted a show and I've been the old cast member and I've had the new cast members come in. And I kind of remember what it was like being on the other side, receiving new energy and a new character essentially, and how weird that was. But I'm not gonna lie, it is always a bit scary. Yeah, it's a bit scary. Just as well, we only had 2 weeks rehearsals for this, so that was scary. You don't know what the dynamic is that you're walking into, basically. So you just figure out. But luckily, I was fine. Everyone was great. We got on really well. There's been no drama, which is actually like kind of amazing. And it's been easy, to be fair.
The nice thing we were saying is that then having a new actor has changed how our characters are as well, both in the scenes with you and without. Initially doing it when the King's Head said, "Oh, do you want to do it again?" and people were saying no for various reasons, or they had NAs. I was a bit like, oh, it won't be the same guy. No, not availabilities. Yeah. Oh, it won't be the same. But actually, having a new director and new design team and new ideas and a new actors, I think made the show better.
I think what also helped is that there was a new director as well. So it's like it was the same show, but kind of not, because it's like a completely different.
It's a whole new creative
show.
team.
So was the design very different? I know it's a different designer.
Totally different. Totally different. I guess.
Really different.
Yeah.
With glass floor with some LEDs and 3 little white boxes, and that was it.
Actually, there was more new than there was old.
Yeah.
Amazing. So you did not feel at all conflicted about, I'm just going to do it my way. Let's go.
Well, in a way, you more have to do that now. It would be more conflicting if I was like, I actually really loved. I think Matthew did actually an exceptional job last night. I think he directed a really good production, which was intimidating, absolutely. But I had good chats with Gabby, and it's like, is it a remount? Am I just essentially a glorified associate, or am I, going to get to direct the show? And the answer was luckily the latter. So, it was, immediately I had to make sure that it was my own intellectual property and not Matthew's.
And Ruby Law, the designer, did a brilliant set. This is so fun, which really communicates to me. You talk about the path and the road and everything, but it's a game, isn't it?
Yeah.
Going through this really.
She killed the set. She did such a good job.
Such a good job.
Yeah. And the craziest bit was she shows us like the mock-up.
3D
projection. 3D, and then it looks exactly the same. Exactly. I've never seen that before in my life.
Never. And I actually I said that to her when we were doing the get-in. I said, I've never ever seen a set look exactly like the images before. And she was like, well, all of my sets look exactly like the images. And I was like, yeah, they do.
Okay, I think we've got time for 2 more questions. Yes, here. And then behind, in front first, yeah.
So I've seen this before.
I know, yeah.
And I was just wondering, something that really stuck out to me, obviously, other than the script, the changes in the script, is the fact that Zeb doesn't have his jacket anymore.
I know.
So, I was wondering if that was like a conscious decision or it just happened, and I just kind of wondered about the general change process.
So,
what was this jacket?
I guess you remind me of your name, sorry. Achilles, yes. Achilles wrote a dissertation on the play last year, or an essay on it last year. And do you remember the jacket? So Dan's character had a jacket, green jacket that you wore.
I still have the jacket.
Yeah.
And T-shirt as well.
And Matthew said, when I come back in for the park, you should be wearing Zeb's jacket like it's one of his hand-me-downs that you've taken after his death. But that isn't in the script, that was a directorial thing, so I didn't raise it at all. Obviously he doesn't wear a jacket during the Shining, but I didn't want to raise it with the new director and go, well, we did this last year, and I know it's not in the script. So,
I know, I'm really glad you didn't, so I don't know how I would have nicely said no. I guess wouldn't have even been on my radar because it's, Ruby's the new costume designer, so she comes with her own ideas, and Ruby and I came together and collectively came up with the whole, design as a whole. So it wasn't actually on our radar. We did actually discuss having a jacket for Zeb. However, I think we even bought one, but then we got to the point and it just didn't happen. And then actually Ruby did ask me at one point. I said, well, I'm not missing anything. So
Dan, did you take that jacket home too?
You'll be keeping the trousers though. You really like the trousers this year.
Yeah, I'll keep
trousers. Really good trousers.
Okay, there was another hand behind. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Firstly, that was beautiful. I saw it, the first version of the last King's Head, and I've seen it again now both times. I was just following on from when Tom was talking about the speech by Beth about women. I just wondered, for everyone, is there a part or a message within the play or when you first read it that resonated with you, or that sits in your mind, or that you most relate to, or that you feel most passionate about?
Oh, beautiful. So you've been named, so do you want to go first?
Yeah.
For a moment.
Just like friends do. They're friends on the spot.
I think I resonated with a few points of this play. One, I'm a parent. Two, I'm queer. And three, I've also had someone very close to me go through cancer. So all of those things stuck out to me a lot, and kind of, it was a story that I wanted to tell, but I think mostly, as an actor, I consciously tried to take on projects that champion diversity, and I felt like this was a project that very much did that, going back to what we were saying before about having this as like it's a domestic story. It's not about queerness, it just happens to be about a queer couple. And I think that that's so important for people to see, to be honest, because it's kind of like black work as well, like we see too much slavery, we see too many like coming out stories, we see too much of like trauma, and we don't see enough like regular living, you know what I mean? And I want to be a part of those stories, I want to tell that, so that's why I took it. You took this job.
Dan, follow that up.
I was going to say, I think, two things, and it's a bit of a cop-out answer. Certainly the cancer trope resonated a lot. I've got a lot of experience with that, and I thought it was treated in a very beautiful way. And then I can't stress how much of a gift writing this good is for an actor, and how like rare that is. So I read the whole play before going to the very first audition, I think.
Yeah, I think you said that.
And I just was like, the writing is just incredible. It's that one where you're sitting in your chair, just like imagining yourself doing it and feeling so excited about that. So it's a bit of a cop out, but basically the quality of the writing.
So many things. I guess there are things in different ways, because initially I was looking at it through a very different lens to how I approached it this time. The first time was 100% the quality of the writing, because I wanted to program a season which championed like brilliant queer new writing in everything that we've just spoken about putting queer stories which go further than just identity and domesticising that. That was 100% why I wanted to program it as headline last time. And this time, I was very, very excited to be asked, to be honest. So 100% that. And
by the way, it's the first time Tom's directed not his own writing.
It is, yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Wow. It's. I think it's a really. How essentially the cancer storyline is packaged into it, but there's still so much hope, is probably why I was so drawn to it. I think it's the hope that kills you.
Yeah. Can I say what resonated with me before I let you speak? I'm going to say what resonated with me before I let you speak.
Okay.
But I just love, my favorite line, which is alluded to a couple of times, is you're not scared of heights, you're just scared to jump. And that seems to be as well. It's just, you jumped into this whole process. It's such a leap of faith, and it's just played out so beautifully. And you can answer the resonance point, but I also wonder what it is like for you to be on stage with your peers here and talking about you in the way that they are.
It's really lovely. I have to be better at doing that. Just wanting to sing away. No, it's really nice, and I think actually the process last year and again this year has made me feel more confident as an artist as well. Like I said, it's the fourth play I've written. It's the first time I've remounted one. It's the first time I've written something for myself to be in, and making art is not easy and is becoming increasingly difficult. Fucking Tories. So not for much longer. So like I say, to have people like Mark or the King's Head or Tom or these amazing performers and the team just go, yes, we love your play, we want to make it as good as we can, is really it's very touching to me and very uplifting. And I think that's and then to have audiences come and want to stay and talk about it and want to ask questions at the bar, send me DMs on Twitter saying how much they enjoyed it and how much they fancy Dan. What am I? Hello.
I'm human too.
But no, we all want, like I said, I start with a story and I hope it ends up being a story people want to listen to and people feel a connection to. And yeah.
I thought for a second there you were going to say we all fancy Dan.
Yeah. That's the message I want you to. That's the resonation I want to take about it. But yeah, no, I'm really touched and thrilled that so many people connect with it, and yeah, I think it says a lot for the power of a good story.
And what next for Breathing as a writer?
Not finished yet. Got another week to go.
Yeah.
And then we'll have to have a chat with Gabby.
Yeah.
See. There's lots of things I'd love to do with it. There's a lot of people in Manchester say they'd love to see it go up there, which would be nice. If there's other producers with bigger spaces they wanted to send that in, that's also nice. But I've got an audio drama to write, and I've got a commission for theatre in Ireland as well, so I've got other bits and pieces to keep me busy for next month. So.
Fantastic.
But I'll be mourning this for a month as well.
I usually end with a silly question that everyone has to answer, and I kept thinking what that might be in this case, and I just kept coming back to names, because you talk so much about the craziness of the names. So I don't know if you were going to have children. I don't know how crazy their names are, but what is the craziest name that you could come up with for?
My husband thinks Irish names are really funny. It's just, he would love a Sive or a Siobhan or something like that.
That nobody could ever spell.
Yeah, but spelled like a very archaic old Irish way rather than anglicised anyway.
Oh my God.
So that's maybe the only little bit of my real life that's in what you say joke about calling them weird Irish names. I think is about the only bit that's me.
Gosh. Do you have any names on your list?
Probably because I'm very happy to stick with my dog for now.
What's the dog's name?
The dog is called Roxy. So that's quite normal. However, we adopted her, and they tried to call her Sophie, which I did find quite funny. They tried to call her Sophie. And
She was also the assistant director. I've seen.
Yes.
In fact, I brought her into previews here, and there was she had her own dressing room. However, on the show that she came and had her own dressing room, there was a fire evacuation, so I had to skedaddle, get the dog, and then run out.
Nemi's question because it was literally as the audience were sitting, we had to go out from the dressing room, stand outside in the bus area, and Nemi was like, has anyone got Roxy? I said, Tom would have trampled over the audience to get Roxy. That's great.
What dog is Roxy?
We adopted a little French bulldog, or at least that's what we've been told she is. But she could be anything, really.
Dan, do you have a dog?
No.
Oh.
No dog. I think if I was going to go rogue with name, I might go classical Greek, something like Agamemnon, Menelaus or something.
I have to say, you want a unique name because it Googles better. I'm just
Yeah,
exactly.
When I came up with Zeb, I thought I'd made up Zeb, and then I looked it up, and then I was like, oh no, there is actually it's a Hebrew name. It means wolf. Turns out.
Yeah. Okay. Now, guys, have I missed anything? What have we missed that going to tell us about this wonderful experience we've all been on together?
I think we've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
Just that it was an utter joy. Yes,
Such a
it's
pleasure.
Really, has been a really wonderful project to be a part of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Privilege.
Now, so audience, we're coming to the end, and this means I need you to go forth and spread the word about the show. You are now champions for breeding champions.
Catch us before we're bred.
I couldn't really have done any better than that.
One more week here at the King's Head. Once we give everyone on stage a big clap, we're going to budge up and do some group shots. So those of you who are on social media, please get your phones out, take photos, share it wherever. And please join me then in thanking Dan and Nemi and Barry and Tom and Gabby. Thank you.